bringing you coverage of the LJL 2021 Spring Split. I'm still your host, Alex, otherwise known as Lexington by Mars One on the internet. Of course, I'm joined by our color caster extraordinaire, Nymera in the middle, and of course, his older sibling and the man that would always say he's slightly better than his younger brother. Initialized over on the other side, sibling rivalry, but they were able to come together for a 40-minute break that we had in between our last series. However, let's forget about that break. We haven't got that team that caused the break. Well, technically we do, technically we don't. Crest Gaming Act facing off against Burning Core in this one. Crest Gaming Act's first time on the Rift in 2021, gentlemen. And this roster lost their their star, their diamond in the rough that no one knew about until he became the LJL's best, some would say. And I think Nymera might know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
CGA blew up to a degree, right?
They did, because it felt like this team was held together by pieces of sticky tape and Arya. Arya, their mid laner, is, in my eyes, he's in the top echelons of emerging regions talent. If you think of, No Man's...
Eros in the VCS, right?
Yeah, so I guess you've got people like Deal1 in the VCS. In the top lane, you've got people like Kia Azeros, and you go over to the LCL, you have people like Nomads and Nanosec and these kind of level of talent. Arya is that kind of talent which can single-handedly be the team's carry and be basically the face of the team. And they lost him, and they lost Arya to DFM. So DFM, the most winning team in this region, has maybe the most valuable player in this region too, and CGA are left without them. They've had to rebuild without.
CGA really have. They have. I apologies, Initialize. Go ahead.
I was just saying it gets worse because it wasn't just Arya they lost, was it? They lost Gango as well, which is just like, that's the two hard carries for this team. The people they relied on to win their games are no longer on the squad. I mean, everything changes, right?
It really did. However, that talent that they brought in to replace Gango, I am at least optimistic for it is going to be Milan, who is an LJL scouting rounds player. I was really high on this man when we came into the LJL. I was excited to hopefully see some of the LJL scouting grounds players. I had my eye on scouting grounds, and I actually did my own coverage, as we weren't completely aware of how everything was going to run, and it was a little bit of a mess sometimes. We're trying to figure out how everything was going to be working. Our power rankings, though, gentlemen, if we bring it back to this, we saw so much change with Crest Gaming Act. Only really Nap has remained with Alchemy in the bot lane, previously known as Grendel, if that name doesn't seem as familiar to you. Whereas Rayfarki, as we've already mentioned, stayed with everything. Now, I have to ask you both, I'm going to go to Initialize first to really break the scene out. What is your prediction, sir? And why?
I'll give it to Burning Core because I think more of the roster stay together and I have a little bit more faith in how they want to play the game.
And for me, I think Yuhi looked like he was doing okay. It's an AD carry centric meta. I think that Burning Core, with that piece working, will have the edge over CGA.
So we're both, you're both going Burning Core. I too have also put down in my predictions Burning Core. So for 3 for 3 with Burning Core, no disagreements. Why are we a little bit lower on Crest Gaming Act, gentlemen? I'm going to hand this to Initialize first for the explanation.
It's just a little bit of time in terms of CGA have kind of lost their 2-star carries. They're bringing in a rookie in the bot lane.
Oh, gentlemen, actually, sorry, we are now into pick and ban phase, so we need to switch over. Thank you very much, everybody. Initialize and Nymera, take it away.
Thank you very much. We knew it was going to be a tight turnaround with the vast pauses we've had in the current LJL, and it means we're actually already into picks and bans. We've had 3 bans apiece and some fairly notable ones in there, but Burning Court will be over on the blue side, CJ on the red. It's still Rayfarki, once Scariado, Yuhi, and Proud rounding out Burning Core's roster. For CGA, I'll leave that one over to you, Nightmare.
Well, it's a bit of a familiar face in Nap in the top lane, but beyond that, we've got Cassin, Nathan, Milan, and then returning back to once again that familiarity of Alchemy, who was Grendel last year in support.
So interestingly, Burning Core go towards the Thresh first pick to get Proud on that high tier support. A lot of engagement, also brings the Lantern, which when you're not necessarily always convinced by, say, AD carry positioning, it's a great way to keep immobile people safe.
Okay, so Set, that's a flex pick. We can play it top, we can play it bot, can play it in a number of different roles. And the thing about having it on red side is that you get to save that until the very last pick if you want to. While I don't think that Set is maybe a top tier top laner or a mid laner or anything else, it's very, very valuable in making sure that you can get a good matchup elsewhere on the map.
But what that will mean is that once gets a hold of
right.
Talia. And Talia right now, ladies and gents, is absolutely monstrous in the jungle. Huge win rates, huge damage. Works so well with so many other people who are bringing point and click CC, cough, cough, Renekton. And so Felios locked in for Yuhi as well. One of his best performing AD carries from last year. And it's already paired in with that Thresh, which is a great duo, as we already know.
I mean, for me, the really good combo is, like you're saying, the point and click CC. You've got the Graviton of Felios. You've got that for the Thresh hook. You've got that into the combo from Talia too. That's a really good kill combo. That trio there from Burning Core is absolutely what this team wants for a very strong pick composition with some of the best champions in their roles right now.
Nation will get a hold of Twisted Fate for himself. Again, we kind of got a little bit short on time to really talk about some of these other new players. Of course, Cassin and Nation are ex-comrades from Dragon X Nation, obviously of Dragon X and Griffin fame, interestingly. Before that was on the likes of OG and some other squads where he had a bit of a rough time of it, but it'll be interesting to see what he does on this Twisted Fate. Has come a long way from his previous infamy of kind of being winless for so long.
For sure. So I'm looking at these bands now, just going back to the last thing, just to round this out. I really want to see a Renekton band from CGA, and then we'll go back to the players. Of course, yeah, so Cassin is not a player. This is their professional debut. They're a DRX rookie, as you're saying on that org. So that sets some expectations for this player coming into it. Now let's make it actually into something. It's actually not going to be the Renekton ban against Rayfark. It's going to be the Jace instead. I know Rayfark is not
He's a great Jace.
biggest Renekton player compared to his Jace. His Jace is one of the best in the LJL, probably the best in the LJL, I'd actually say. So, but I feel like giving up that point and click CC combo in top lane and in bot lane, that's risky.
And you're also asking me whether, do I think a player of the caliber of Rayfark is unable to play Renekton? Question. And I have to say, I expect he does play it. CGA are currently hovering the Nidalee. They instead go towards Xin Zhao. What? I am so excited. All right, rookie Cassin. You have thrown down a hell of a gauntlet here if you want to punish Talia early. Xin Zhao was right up there.
Definitely in that sense of things, but also in mid lane. Xin Zhao can come into mid and start diving in and start really doing some really good ganks, right? So you got the TF, you got the gold card right into the Xin Zhao. That is a pretty good way to start playing around mid lane. Now, Orianna, one of the safer mid laners, but it's still immobile at the end of the day. If you don't position your wave right, and Gadeadu did in that last game, you can get punished hard.
My spirit was briefly tested by the fact there was an Alawi hover there, but it's not locked in. So
Darius, please, Darius.
One of these. Rayfarki, of course, notorious for being a massive Darius main, but instead it will be the Renekton. We called it out. Renekton Talia has been locked in. Aphelios Thresh is in the bot side, which is happily playing safe. You can see exactly what Burning Core want to do this game.
You can do, and I mean, as soon as you lock in the Talia, you have to expect the Renekton, right? Volibear is fine in the individual matchup, not in that 2v2. I think this has been a lot of overlooked picks from the side of CGA, and I think that Burning Core have got everything they wanted.
Okay. Hear me out here, and I don't know whether this is true, but I'm wondering, CJ have got to be aware that Renekton Talia is a thing. That's not out of left field. That's not a surprise. Do they expect that locking in the Jins, I was saying, basically, yeah, you're going to go up top, and I will just counter-gank you and destroy you? Is that what Cassin is trying to do here?
I wonder if the thought process is, you're going to go top, I'm going to make sure you never make it there. Xin Zhao, very early pressure, you get that red buff, you get to punish all of these really strong... Well, you can punish some of these farming junglers early, right? But... It's definitely a gauntlet thrown. This is not the, oh, we have an easy slide into a victory kind of march. It's, you have to play this right, otherwise this Talia, which we know is so high value, will just pop off.
All right, so either way, this is bold from CGA. Cassin has got a lot of pressure on him here, having picked up this very, very early game jungler, and he needs to control the top side of the map, because otherwise Renekton and Talia, Rayfarki and Once, could definitely reprise their dominance from last split, or last season even, rather.
For sure. And we knew that Once, and Rayfarki, very strong top side of the map. But, and actually, speaking of Rayfarki, I was talking about, oh, the Jace band's there. not so much of a Renekton player. This is Ray Farkey's debut Renekton. As far as I'm aware, this is debut Renekton. Once, however, played plenty of carries across their tenure, and last year was the primary carry for the team. Had huge Kindred games, when Kindred was kind of not quite in meta either. So to have this duo on the top side of the map for two players that we value so high through spring and summer, this is a very exciting game for me.
Slight misinformation for production who correct themselves. It's the first game for Ray Fark and Renekton in a few years. He's just not played it recently, guys. He has played it in the past, but he's only been playing since, 2018, I want to say. So hasn't played it in, I suppose, at this point, going on 3-ish years. So it has been a while, of course. Things have changed a lot about how you want to build and play Renekton at that point. Hell, we've had a whole item rework since then. So curious to see how, of course, this all works out. I think we're both favoring Burning Core right now, but
based off of
the
the draft, you have to. Because look, the Xin Zhao is really fun. You can upset a lot of different things. TF, strong pick in the meta right now, but Talir is just disgusting when you combo with stuff. If you can hit Talir's abilities, nothing really stands up to that. And when you've got point and click from top side, point and click from bot side, safe mid lane, who has also that ability to just kind of lay the ball out and say, if you're going to walk in here as Set, as TF, as this Xin Zhao, or of course the Volibear too, we're going to shockwave you, and it's not really going to end up any better for you.
And that probably is the major issue here. How do we put this? We've got ourselves some answers, I guess, to Talino. TF can match the Weaver's Wall come level 6. That's good news. And, Xin Zhao could definitely attack Talir early on. But there are a lot of moving parts here that need to go in favor of CGA for their quite aggressive counter choices, such as they are, to work out.
It's the onus. The onus is on CGA. But however, if you are this player, Kassin, who's come in and wants to make an impact on the LJL stage, you have the tools to do so.
So yeah, again, Kassin was a trainee player on Dragon X, of course, under the likes of Pioshik, who's is currently famous for being an Udyr one trick. It feels like.
Doing much better than he was in 2020 though. So a lot to work with.
Looking a lot more confident. And again, this guy, that guy's always been a very likable player, but very mercurial. Sometimes pops off on Kindred, other times gets destroyed by the likes of Canyon. Either way,
who doesn't, honestly? Who doesn't?
True enough. Yankos out there crying tears of fury. Either way, I guess what I'm getting at is this is a guy who's come from a relatively prestigious organization. Nation as well has kind of rebuilt himself a little bit from kind of being in a very difficult position 4 years ago. Of course, now both these players in the LJL looking to really make a mark here, really prove that they are worth the import slots. And Milan as well, this rookie superstar from the scouting grounds who was an absolute monster of an AD carrier. Mass1 has been raving about him for months now. I'm quite excited to see what these guys can do, but they've definitely put themselves in a position where they are going to have to make it look good, because otherwise they could well get run over by the picks that come out of Burning Core.
Agreed. It's going to be the Comet MF as well. So this is going to be lethality into, of course, or the Collector, and just have that really big ult coming across team fights. The problem for me is that you're up against Yuhi's historical best champion from 2020. This Aphelios was the one pick we were like, okay, Yuhi's actually going to be a factor this game when he was on his lower streak of form. And of course, we saw that last game, the Zai was admirable, and we saw in the summer 2020 playoffs his Ashe was doing pretty okay too. But it really is this Aphelios what we tend to praise from this player, looking to see what they can do on that bot side, because Proud also coming off a very strong run of form from summer.
And you'll notice that CGA certainly have their fans still, despite losing some of their star players. 65% of Twitter users currently favoring CGA right now, which is a fairly significant number. The AI Blitzcrank bot, though, we've missed you, Blitzcrank-san, is offering a 53% chance for Burning Core to come out with this one, as Alchemy takes a lot of damage early on in this lane. Good lord.
Has to start the W. That's really not what you want from the set, but that is just what you have to deal with. That's the hand you've been dealt in this lane, and Misfortune losing priority on the wave. Not a good sign for CJ's bot lane so far.
And there is the level 2 in. That means there'll be a death sentence available, and Alchemy would like to avoid that one being that he wants to stay transmuted rather than with real life rather than being turned into lead. Nearly had a good phrase there. You saw where I was going with that.
Halfway through I was like, oh yes, alchemy is actually a thing outside of a player's name. I had forgotten about that.
Yeah, it means something.
Well, hopefully
yes.
trying to turn gold into challenger, and
very
come out
good,
with a
very
win
good.
in their first game of the LJL 2021 Spring Split. We see the
Here we
first
go.
aggressive invader of the game onto Once Talia. He's used the combo. Oh, that's pretty bad.
He used the combo, but actually, unfortunately, the route wasn't scouted. Once gets out, you can see the path here. He's gone red to Krugs to blue to blue full side clear back to stop Cassid having an easy engage timing in there. Kind of smart from Once to know that was probably a possibility from the Xin Zhao.
The vision toggle completely baited me. I'm like, oh no. It's the Jaws music
Oh,
over and over again. Cassin with the red buff, double buff Shinzo at level 3, one of the strongest champions of the game, particularly within the jungle role. But one survives it. Gets their full clear off, does lose that top side scuttle. That isolates the volley bear into the Renekton matchup, which is good for Nap. Nap is not necessarily our best carry player, but has done admirably on these brawlers coming into a lot of the team fights in the mid game and late game, particularly as Ornn, in terms of his team fighting champions, has been very strong. Not one of those brawlers, of course, but when you look at the volley bear, if he does get that lead, expect good things out of this player. Then Ray Farkey, if he gets that lead and the Talia does end up making things a bit awkward, that's expect that 2v2, as you do with those two champions, to pop off.
Yeah, you see, Alchemy's already had to reset. It's kind of a nasty CS lead that's kind of started up in this bot side already, and that's a little bit unnerving. Of course, it was a rough level 1, and Once is going to come in for a lane gank here as well. Going to see whether they can get something here.
They still have the Graviton. That's got about 23, 24 shots left on it, so you can have 2 routes, a handful of shots if you do use that Q to its maximum value, but actually as it stands, maybe it was just Once wondering if Cassin was going to come in for a gank. He's spotted on the bot lane Scuttle Vision, which means that Xin Zhao is in the worst state in the game for him. He's been spotted.
Yeah. He needs to be doing something. And he actually hasn't tried to go for the invade, didn't get anything. Didn't even get to steal any camps because Once have managed to clear cleverly enough to avoid it. But that means they know where he is. They're going to go in. That's the death sentence in. They land the hook. The shop's there as well. Alchemy goes down for first blood to Yuhi. Now Milan is left under the turret, but he will get to escape. And that was a clean dive. Yuhi burns cleanse. Proud burns ignite, but that's all.
It is, and I mean, I guess the important thing from that is actually Once didn't end up getting any of that through there. Didn't actually land the shove. Things got a little bit dicey.
Did indeed. Nation claims a play in mid, so that's good news for them. But that is literally it. And that's just off Gariaru going back for that early TP. So not much there. Cassin at least will start up this early Drake, but Once is still around. They're looking for a repeat gank. And Milan's still around. They're going to get warded out, and that might mean that Once is going to be forced away. Drake likely to go the way of CGA, then perhaps against the run of play.
Yeah, that's looking like it is going to be that. As a matter of fact, they do end up getting themselves the first dragon, as you're saying. And at least we get ourselves a bit of those objectives coming through from the side of CGA, because this bot side, I would not have expected them to get anything from this. So going back into this replay, and it is that grabs them into hook combo. In fact, actually, the root didn't even need to come through, as you can see the flay, actually. The flay takes away Once's kill participation. Scumbag Proud taking away the jungler's kill participation. Good
Oh, good flash. But the pseudo own record to stop things out. That's a great shockwave. The Alchemy finally gets the W off in time, but now Cassin needs to get out but falls down. Gariaru gets it, and the counter gank is superb from Burning Core. Ray Farkey is here with a teleport. Might look to flash onto Alchemy, who's very low, but won't look to do it in the end. It's another kill over the Burning Core. This time Once gets the kill participation, and CGA have their own move turned against them. Too obvious, too outplayed, and Once won't stop the back there.
Okay, so, yes, ambitious from CGA, trying to go for that somewhat vulnerable Orianna under the mid lane turret, but more hardy than they thought. Pulls out the shockwave, gets the kill into the enemy jungler. Cassin burns flash, and this early game for the Xin Zhao has not hit the marks they wanted to.
No, it has not, and it's a big lead in the bot side. It's now a kill onto Gariaru, who outplays the dive admirably with some official support from his team coming in clutch. And Burning Core lead themselves up at about 1,000 gold here at 7 minutes in, which is a significant lead pre-10. What's the Xin Zhao?
It's, yeah, I mean, particularly because of the Xin Zhao, right? Because we're here looking like, okay, all right, you're trying to deal with this Talia, and getting the invade in here, and actually you can see that Once knows that something might be up, checking these brushes, sees that some of the raptors are gone. I actually wonder if that was from the previous fight, and has just chosen to say, look, I'm not walking through all this fog of war. There are just way too many bushes for me to be happy to walk into the Xin Zhao while he's still in his point of power. Once showing that, that thought process, at least, to keep themselves safe in their own jungle.
it's not so audacious in a charge in the jungle. It's just a straight kill at that point onto Talir. Don't care what point you're at. There's a Dirk in Cassin's inventory, and that would definitely get quite scary.
For sure. Oh, yeah, so this will probably be the Eclipse coming out of Cassin, and in fairness, played with a couple of lethality Shinzas myself. A lot of burst. Very large amount of burst. And in this kind of game, if you get through into the late game, you get a gold card onto any of these 3 players in the middle of the pack from Burning Core between jungle through to bot lane. That's really good for your team fight. If you take away the Orianna before the Shockwave comes through, take away the Aphelios before they start popping up, you can hope that actually your Misfortune is going to be the one that's putting out more team fight damage than their counterparts on the other side.
All right, once is roaming down to this bot side. Misfortune's ult was interrupted, but she did manage to clear the wave critically, and that means Cassin gets a hold of the Herald. It's 3 plates in mid. An early use of this Herald here would be good news.
No
Gary
flash.
Aru still got no flash. Flash gold, but the Shockwave is well timed. Will buy time for Gary Aru, and he does manage to get out, and that means the Rift Herald isn't summoned yet. Gary Aru once again outplays the Divination. No! Not like this! And Gary Aru gets a second kill off a second botch dive. Here comes Once looking to hunt for wherever that Xin Zhao might be, but unfortunately the backs come through already.
Dive me once, shame on me. Dive me twice, shame on you, Nahian. Takes the tower at aggro. Cassin actually couldn't have taken any more tower shots themselves. Gauriaru gets away with murder and actually murders his lane opponent.
Oh, call an ambulance, but definitely not for me. Gary Aru once again with some very critical outplays under tower. 2 kills on the Orianna. Let's look again because it looked like a done deal.
It does.
No flash, flash gold guard.
So Nahian is... Oh, so Nahian initially takes aggro because the gold card lands, then he gets flipped out of it by... oh no. I'll tell you what it is. It is the Corrupting Potion. Gauriaru walks back into range of the tower, at least within that leash range. The tick of damage comes through after Cassin drops aggro. Nation dies. That is the worst of laning item interactions you can hope for at that point in the game.
That is galling. Galling for Nation's Twisted Fate. 40-odd seconds to the Mountain Drake. There is no flash on this Twisted Fate, but he will have Destiny available, which is something. But 2-0 on Gary Aru, who's outplayed 2 dives in 2 attempts. Great buffering on that Shockwave as well. So, credit to Gary Aru where it's due, but that's also just some real unfortunate item interactions. And Once is here in mid lane, they're looking for a gank themselves.
They are. Proud can come in with a flash. There's no flash in Nahian now. Maybe this is going to be something like a flash flay.
Shockwave comes in, does land, the Swerve is there, and that means there is no chance, no way for Twisted Fate to survive. He gets dealt a rough hand in mid lane, and that will mean that Burning Core get the Royal Flush and will get themselves a Mountain Drake as well.
Gauriaru does all of his own stunts, sets up that player with the Shockwave after setting up the counter dive under turret with the Shockwave the last time. The first game, not particularly anything special from Gauriaru. Got a bit manhandled by Tussle and Dasher. This game, stamping a bit more of his mark onto the Rift, and 4-0, Burning Core looking pretty confident.
Yeah. It's Natron with 2 deaths. It's Cassin with another. The Mountain Drake goes there where you can see 3 plates gone in that bot set alongside a 20-odd CS lead. It's looking a little bit dire for CGA right now, who are down 2,000 gold, cresting into this sort of 11, 12-minute mark.
Cresting.
It's all in the right places. It's on the Talia. It's on the Orianna. Hell, it's on Yuki's Aphelios.
It is, and honestly, I guess the one thing you're talking about after that point is, oh, what about this Volibear into Renekton? It's even, guys. It's even as a Bramble Vest. Your Nap is not going to be carrying this game anytime soon. The Herald is going to kill the mid tower. That's important. That's something you can play around, because you can start his first turret. You get money onto, you get gold onto Nahian, who was already ahead even after the kills before the first dive. I actually don't know whether he ever took Nahian after that kill participation onto the TF in the play in mid. But now you can shove in that Orianna. Maybe you can start making a lot more plays around the map. Gauriaru does have the teleport to respond, though, so not as big a win as CJ might have hoped it would be.
Exactly, and CJ have put a lot of resources into that mid lane, and 2 of those ganks kind of failed, so finally they get something there, but it's so much effort to get to that point, and Cassin cannot stick around for this blue buff. It's smited away by Once. That's taken out. And, the gold lead is still in favor of Burning Core. They've got 3, nearly 4 plates in this bot side and should likely be able to pick up at least 1 more here with the wave coming in.
I think the thing with Burning Core in this game, and in the first 2 games that we've seen them, and again, it is the first week, it's a new roster against new rosters, is that it feels like for the first time in forever, Burning Core are not like obligated to carry through topside. They can actually play through this bot lane. They are kind of dumping on Milan a little bit right now. Misfortune with the Comet meant to be quite lane dominant, but the Aphelios Thresh is a duo that has been strong ever since Aphelios was released. Burning Core giving me a lot of hope in terms of taking the pressure off of Once and Rayfark to perform roles which they're still adequate in, but then also having value from the rest of the team in what they want to perform in stuff like the mid lane on the Orianna. So I mean, that Yu-Gi-Oh wasn't really playing. He was playing a lot more of the supportive champions. He did have a couple of carry games on the things like the LeBlanc and the Cassiopeia coming into playoffs, and he looked pretty adequate on them. But Gadiadu has been consistent in this game and taking a lot of pressure where other mid laners may have faltered.
Cassin's coming for an invade with Alchemy, he will be spotted, but this is a return blue buff invade. The shove misses, and that means that this blue buff is free reign for CGA to get a hold of. But it does mean with everyone there that once again we're going to see the attempted clear onto that. Milan will flash away, but he gets death. He's in a lot of trouble, goes straight down to the onslaught. It's a double teleport back. Yuhi trying to get out, but will get flash. Thundering slapped by Nap, who comes in, and it will be a double kill surely over to CGA, who turned that around pretty well, frankly. Now Gary Arrow's in trouble.
It doesn't
Flash
stop
audacious
there.
charge, that's a great shockwave. In comes the showstopper though, and Gary Arrow will fall, and suddenly CGA get 3 kills onto the board.
Turn on the afterburn as CGA kick themselves up a gear or two. Might have just shifted from first to third as they pick up 3 kills. The initial play in that 2v2, really like it. We're going to go see that replay, but it doesn't take into account the globals. Starts with a flash flay. The slow comes through. Milan gets hooked thereafter. But turret shots, they kind of hurt. And we talked about the globals and Gadiadu not really being able to respond to a lot of these plays in the same way that the TF can. And they are punished accordingly. 2 kills to 1.
And then in the mid lane as well, you can see here it goes. Flash audacious charge is a hell of a drug.
It is. So this happened immediately after, so I guess we're just going through the whole shebang. Alchemy, not doing great in the laning phase, but turning up at the right place at the right time, linking up with Cassin. And actually, one thing that Alchemy was saying is that I've learned a lot of laning tips and tricks from the likes of Gango and the other AD carry players I've been with in the past. Now, I really want to play with this Korean mid and jungle of Cassin and Nahan, though, to let me play the map and teach me how to play that aspect of the game. Turns up at the right place at the right time and gets his team on the board.
And that now evens up the gold. And of course, that mid lane tower going down earlier definitely gives CJ a little bit of that advantage there. But the fact that they have managed to recover so well, have managed to get themselves back into the game, is great news for CGA fans. While we got a bit of downtime as well, I know we've been talking about some other stuff, but I do want to call out that Nation did go for the Everfrost.
I was just going to say that. Glad we're on the same wavelength there.
There you go. Tell me about Everfrost and TF, because I'm used to seeing Rocket Belt there.
Rocket Belt gives you the gap close for the gold card. What Everfrost does, this means that when the gold card lands, you throw the Everfrost in and they're stunned again. They're rooted again. It's much more CC. The hook goes through the minion. That's a hitbox snipe.
Oh, proud. That's nice. All right, a lot of damage now to Nap, who's taken very, very low. That's the massive ult from Aphelios, but won't quite find the kill. It'll force Nap back, though, and that takes a lot of damage. Gariaru is around this bot lane tier 2, but is in a lot of danger here. Teleport's coming through. No shockwave in time. There's the Everfrost. The stun is forever. Now Ray Farkey left alone down here. And CGA get the kill with the perma-stun onto the Orianna.
Oh, lovely. It's National Bully a Gariaru lane. Of course, Gariaru named after the phonetic spelling of gorilla in Japanese. And yes, yeah, forward out for Harambe. I guess the gorilla dies in the bot lane.
Is that actually what it is? I didn't know.
Yeah. It's why on his Twitter he's got like a little gorilla emoji and stuff like that. It was so back on Axes, it was the gorilla and the Hoglet in the mid and the jungle. Of course, they have been separated. Hoglet returning back for Axes, but Gadaru finding new pastures on Burning Core. But really, Gadaru has been focused so hard. I don't know whether I think a lot of this does come from the vision game from CGA. When you have that Destiny popped from the TF, you get to see where everyone is on the map. But once,
buddy,
maybe you don't want to be there.
But Alchemy flubs the facebreaker, throws up a little happy pig emote, and once gets to escape with a little bit of an over-eager engage, but finally Burning Core get themselves a couple turrets, and that will even keep the gold nice, and even mid lane is gone down with all that going on in the jungle. And right now, 2 Drakes to 1, 2 towers to 2, 5 kills to 4, relatively even game.
As far as it stands, that is definitely Paz looking, got a dragon, not quite spawning just yet. It's just fighting over priority in different lanes, trying to get that vision control, maybe so. Cassin can't get to the plays quite so unspotted too, because when you can get 3-4 people onto one area of the map, and that's a good amount of damage from once, but the combo doesn't even quite land. Burning Core finding safety in numbers, saying that, okay, you can play the map, you have globals, you don't have the Destiny just yet, but if we group up, you can't use that, and a stun's coming in bot lane.
All right, Crescent Guard comes out now. Nap's in a spot of bother as well. The shove won't land, but the backs are interrupted. And in comes Nakium into mid, but that's a big ult, but great cleanse keeps Yuhi alive. But once turning around, Nakium now in a spot of bother himself, takes a lot of damage. The shockwave is good, and Milan is pulled back, goes down. Once gets that, well, rather Gary Aru gets that one. Proud goes for the hook, won't land it, but gold card comes out, nothing more to be found, and Burning Core turn around the attempted engage this time.
The combo is good, the shockwave is good, the cleanse is sublime from Yuhi. Not quite the Captain Jack, couple of frames between the stun and the movement thereafter, but Yuhi outplays the mid lane player, and Milan is the AD carry that goes down.
Oh, that was nice to watch. Let's go back over that replay, because that felt pretty good.
So, Milan's actually managed to get pretty good XP across the board at least, but you can see you're leading him with the gold card, but there's a cleanse on the AD carry. The counter global comes through, and while I think the Renekton Talia combo has not been really used that well from Burning Core, at least you do manage to use the Weaver's Wall to get involved back in this mid lane again after playing in the bot lane, once making sure he is present around the map.
And you can see, well, we said Renekton Talia is a fabulous combo, but you also mentioned Gravitum and Thresh offer enough CC in the bot side to definitely think about focusing that choice, and once has gone that way, I suppose, early on in the game, even if he didn't get that kill participation, and you see where Burning Core have managed to get their strengths.
No, I do think that the Xin Zhao has stopped Once and Ray Farkey from over-eagerly pursuing top lane fights. We actually see Castin and Alchemy looking in this mid lane again, but Proud waiting in the wings with the Lantern to ferry Yuhi back to safer pastures. I've used that word too many times. Safer places.
Places. I hadn't realized we were using pastures.
Well, yeah, like Gato, more, green pastures, stuff like that. Look, the grass is always greener. There's always a better word to use, and yes, vocabulary, fun stuff.
The grass is always green on the other side of the rift. That's why the other team wants to get there.
I mean, unless it's like an Infernal Rift, then it's... Well, actually, Sam, I'm just going to say, you're actually just wrong, because Baron's side of the Rift has got, like, all of the cracks running through it. There is just significantly less.
True.
There's void grass there, Sam.
I mean, look, all I'm saying is that could be, like, neon green. Like, it's still green.
Wow.
It could be greener. It's just not a healthy green. I never specified it had to be a healthy green. Come on now.
Oh, teleports in, but the Lantern's there.
That's a flash in from the Audacious Shove and Cassin. That's a decent shove onto Nakium, who's in a lot of trouble as well, but Yuhi, very, very low, will get taken out by Nap, who flashes under, smashes now. You can see Proud goes golden, but I don't think he's getting out. Gary does come in with a decent shockwave, but the Audacious Charge keeps Cassin alive and out of it. It's 2 kills down. CGA burn their teleports, burn their flanks, and get their way in to grab a couple kills.
Cassin just pushing both of the bot laners of Burning Core back into the waiting arms. The rest of his team, I'm sure we'll see a replay of that, but it feels like Burning Core are getting caught time and time again by all of these globals. Nap has the teleports at the right times. Ray Farkey has not managed to do the same thing, and it's actually this Xin Zhao instead of the Weaver's Wall toting Talia who's made more of an impact on this mid game.
And you can see Ray Farkey's still not got the teleport, and that's a problem right now. Of course, it's still pretty even. Burning Core still have a slight gold lead, but you can see that CGA aren't going down without a fight, and especially after Cassin didn't get all that much done in the early game, he's certainly making his presence felt in this mid game.
It kind of reminds me of the difference in philosophies between a player like Huni in the Shy. Well, no, more like Duke in the Shy or something like that, right? Because you have like the Shy and the Huni style of player that will always save TP for their own lane state, and that's kind of the extreme of that point of view. Yuhi's actually doing a lot of damage after Milan there, and they're sieging in on the mid lane. But then you have a player like Nap, more like Duke, who always has that teleport on call for the next big play, for the next play for their team. And Nap has ended up turning up to numerous fights now and is now sat at 2-0-2, doesn't care about the matchup with the Renekton, and is trying to snowball the rest of the map.
See Burning Core now shoving in. Milan once again using that ult for time, but that's a decent shockwave. Milan taking very low. The shove's there as well. The blast auto, not enough until it comes through with a little last chakram. Goodbye, sweet misfortune. Bilgewater knew thee well.
Burns both summoners, burns Gale Force, but still gets caught. Caston now behind enemy lines, got the Lantern. Alchemy's there, and Alchemy's caught too.
I don't know, there comes the box, and Alchemy goes down, and suddenly the bot lane of CGA falls to a gank. Nation's going to retreat, but Ray Farkey sees Newhunt trying to get there. He's going to have to burn Destiny. Will the stun come through? Not in time, and Ray Farkey doesn't want to do it. But that means Burning Core start up the Baron. They've got the men advantage. Cassid is around, but Proud is going to try and body block. They don't know where this Xin Zhao is, but they're not going to go for it.
Playing
It's just
goalkeeper.
gone.
Oh, unless the what that got to about 300 HP. Wouldn't have been enough for a wild card steal. But now the Weaver's Wall's coming in, teleport in, the counter globals come in.
And now it's been back and forth, global v global, tit for tat, but this time Burning Core come out stronger. The Crescent Guard comes out, trying to buy time. The Ruthless Predator from Ray Farkey holds Xin Zhao in place. Flash for once to secure the kill. They'll turn it into a dragon as well, and Burning Core pick up all the pieces.
At least CGA mobilize around the map. They're pushing in waves, so Burning Core can't immediately have those minion waves to start ramming down the lanes into the base of CGA. They lose the jungler, they lose themselves that dragon, they won't be on soul point, it would only be a cloud soul point anyway. Gonna go back into this replay. Milan once again using a wave clear ultimate. Hook comes out, forces that, and stands on top of the ball. That's one of the oldest tricks of the book. Dignitas found this out in Season 2 Worlds. You can't just walk into the ball, it tends to get you killed. Yuhi picks up the kill with that Calibrum ultimate, putting the mark down. The empowered auto comes through. Milan hits the dirt.
And for all that Gary Arrow has been threatened at nearly all stages of this game, his shockwaves have been very strong.
Absolutely have. Gary Arrow has not necessarily had the teammates around him to be safe in all of these positions. Maybe he could have played a bit more reserved and given up a bit more, but actually Gario's outplayed enough to maybe shine a bit better on this style of play. Of course, that bot lane dive on the inner turret felt particularly bad when 4 people turn up from 2 different globals and you're sat there thinking, oh, poo, this is really not what I want to be as quite an underfed mid laner right now.
That's what all solo queue players think. Oh poo, we're all very polite here in the League of Legends community.
Exactly,
we're not known for
words.
toxicity at all.
Absolutely. All things said and done. Oh my god.
Not again! Gets a Haymaker shield, but that's a lot of his HP bar gone. Once is stinging with 2 items in play. Ludens plus Zhonya's and a needlessly large rod is quite a lot of damage, it turns out.
Felt like I was watching a replay of Misfits versus Misfits in the game in the LEC yesterday, because that's exactly what happened when you have that Talia over that wall. Sometimes you're just walking through trying to rotate to a different turret, you get hit over a wall, and you have to burn defensive summoners and stuff like that. At least Alchemy had the Haymaker, didn't have to do that this time, but it does mean you give up. Mid lane inhibitor turret, and the cascade of minion waves has arrived.
They get the inhibitor in mid. Yuhi pops himself Severum with Infernum backing him up, and it all looks good for now. It'll be a second inhibitor turret going down, and CGA, you've got to start finding some engage soon or you're going to lose your entire base. Second inhibitor falls, and Burning Core is just going to back out now with a 4,500 Gut Baron power play. Finally, CGA go in, but will they find much? That's not the best. Misfortune ultimate. Milan is in so much trouble. Gary Aru finally gets that kill. 1 down already. Nap into the backside, trying to find as much space as he can with the Stormbringer, but Yuhi gets the kill anyway, and suddenly 2 men are dead, 2 inhibitors are down, and Burning Core, rather, are looking to try and end it. Nation now down to half HP. Cassin needs to find something now. Nexus turret number 1 falls down, and Burning Core are feeling a little bit like they don't have minion waves, a little bit like they're probably going to have to pull away. You can see Gary Arrow is backing away, but has teleport. They are going to stick around and go for the shove. Alchemy, Hex flashing, won't find too much yet. There's the teleport. There's the last Nexus turret, and this Nexus under siege. CJ needs to find something. It's a decent face breaker, but already Alchemy goes down. So does Cassin. It's Nation alone against the world. Finally, the respawns come through, but Milan has such little to offer here. Double kill to Yuhi's Aphelios. He's going to try and get something more at the end, will Nap, but it's still not enough. Burning Core clean up the game in 26, nearly 27 minutes.
Burning Core end week 1, 1-1, and they're looking pretty hot out of the gates. Some things they'll have to go back and review, but this game, they rolled with the punches, dealt with the global composition coming out of their opponents, and sail into that victory.
All right, with that, ladies and gents, we're going to take a very brief break, and then we'll collect our thoughts and come back with an analyst desk. Take your own chance to catch your breath. I know I will be, and we'll be back just after this.
Everybody, and welcome back to the desk. Marswan, Nightmare in the middle, Initialize over on the other side, bringing a quick recap on the match we just watched, which was Crest Gaming Act facing off against Burning Core. Burning Core were victorious in this one. Our predictions were correct this time, and, well, it kind of went how we expected it, and I would like to set us up when we say we expected it, with the pick and ban phase, one of my favorite parts to talk about, gentlemen. You both know this, and Renekton getting through all the way to Burning Core's second round picking. I was very surprised when they opened with the Talia, really. Well, second round Talia.
Yeah, I think the thing for me is more about the Talia gets through, and then the Renekton skyrockets in value. So then it was kind of a question of, okay, so Talia has options. The bot side, so you got the Graviton, you got the Thresh hook into that. Lots of CC, lots of ways to set up for a combo. Renekton on the top side, huge 2v2. Jinzao comes through from casting on his debut game in the LJL. And what we saw is that actually once was afraid to go topside. It nullified that Renekton Talia combo in a certain sense, but the question is how much did it actually add in the rest of the game? That's a bit more up for debate.
Yeah, I mean, it was very difficult for Kashin to really kind of contest certain objectives, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later. Coming into the actual game, though, it very much felt like it was globals versus globals. We had a lot of teleports on this map. Obviously, when you've got Twisted Fate around, it's going to be important to play around a Twisted Fate, play around those objectives, and initialize. Globals versus globals. Junglers are going to be important in this. We got Talia with her wall. She can get across the map quickly. Twisted Fate. What was this matchup really like?
So, I mean, at least early on in the game, it seemed like Burning Core had a fairly commanding lead, and then there were some really critical picks where they got a double kill down bot, did CGA from Nation, and Nap teleporting their way in to get both Yuhi and Proud. Good catch in the mid lane with a flash audacious charge into Gariaru as well. And the game became a little bit more even. We suddenly started wondering, well, maybe CGA have something to say about this game, despite slight comp differences and scaling differences. And that basically meant that when one team's globals were down, the other team would all in on getting a multiple kills, and then vice versa. I think in the end, though, it just became a little bit of Burning Core just having a bit of better scaling and a couple more outplays, frankly.
Yeah, I would like to agree. And let's hammer on that point of the bot lane. When that bot lane teleportation came down, obviously I was hopeful for the bot lane of Crest Gaming Act, though if you listen to our podcast, I do highlight some of my concerns around that, but I'm not going to go too much in depth here because this is the coverage, not the podcast. But it did feel like a little bit of a bot diff, Nightmare.
This is why, and again, I mean, you know, this is definitely the cast, not going too much into our podcast content and stuff like that, but we had worries about the bot lane in Milan doing great in scouting grounds. That's not the same as being in one of these fully fledged leagues. And we kind of saw that here. Got into a draft where you do have a decent lane. I mean, Fellows Thresh, very, very powerful in its own CV2. But when you're playing this Comet's Fortune, you're expecting to have some presence in the lane. They lose that at level 1. And after that point, I think we saw 2 out of about 6 or 7 Misfortune ultimates being used defensively. The rest were just used to clear waves, and that's really, really not great. And actually, even on top of that, when Milan was setting down for an ult, it was all more often getting caught by a shockwave or something like that than actually doing anything useful with it.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you there. Not the positioning we actually saw from him in Scouting Grounds, but then part of that was he didn't really play much Misfortune in Scouting Grounds. Was expecting a Jhin, honestly, but if I'm recalling right, I think that might have been banned. So have to check that.
There are some transferable skills, right? Because like Jhin again is one of these you have a bit more utility at the range and stuff, and you have one of these teamfight ultimates. It just felt like it was a lot of nerves coming in from Milan, a lot of very unwise plays, and they're gonna have to go back and review this game certainly from the perspective of Milan.
Well, showing the big shoes that Gango left there, will Milan be able to fill it? And also, I still have my questions around the support of Crest Gaming Act. However, moving over to the mid lane, let's talk about the last topic, and this is Gadiadu, who while he struggled a little bit in the first game that we saw him in versus the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming, this Oriana game was far cleaner initialized.
Oh, yeah, and considering the amount of pressure CGA put onto
Mm.
that mid lane with dives galore,
It
Rift
was a
Heralds,
lot.
and everything, Gary Arrow did an exceptional job with a little bit of assistance from his team turning up, of turning around those dives. He got out of 2 consecutive dives and got a kill out of both of them. And then some of those shockwaves later on into the game, catching up Milan in particular, were really good to watch. And I think part of it was a little bit of when we said there were some outplays that made the difference, this is kind of what I'm talking about there. CJ put so many things, including the kitchen sink, into trying to put Gaudiado behind that diving mid, and they don't get a lot for it. And yes, eventually they get some picks, but at that point, Gaudiado has items, he has kills, and come the team fight, I would probably take an Orianna and a Fed Aphelios over a 0-3 Misfortune and a Twisted Fate, frankly.
I don't even think that's a question. I thought that was just a statement at most people that would agree with that we're saying. Absolutely, I have to agree with you with that. And honestly, gentlemen, that's going to be it for the time being. We do need to go over to a break. However, when we come back, we'll be giving you our coverage of Axis facing off against Crest Gaming Act. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this break.